1. Hookworm. Let's talk about the silent invaders waiting in the warm mud of the ancient world. Deep in the fertile soils along the Nile River and the damp agricultural terraces of early South American civilizations, a creeping menace quietly sapped the energy of entire empires. Ancient societies built their lives around agriculture, stepping barefoot into the damp earth every single morning. They had no idea they were stepping directly into minefields of biological traps. These microscopic hunters thrived in the warm, wet dirt, waiting for centuries as generations of farmers walked right over them. Archaeologists have found the calcified remains of these exact creatures resting perfectly preserved inside the intestinal tracts of Egyptian mummies, proving that even the wealthiest pharaohs who walked barefoot in their private gardens were not safe from this soil-dwelling menace. If you were to hold an adult hookworm in your hand, it would look exactly like a short, pale piece of dental floss. It is roughly half an inch long, slightly curved at one end, and possesses a fleshy, pale pink coloration that makes it nearly invisible against human tissue. When viewed up close, that curved end reveals a terrifying, hollow mouth filled with sharp, microscopic cutting plates that look like jagged pieces of shattered glass. The real power is its thermal detection. Long before modern militaries invented heat-seeking missiles, these eyeless creatures engineered a way to sense the body heat of a mammal from several inches away. They do not need to see you. They feel the warmth of your footfall vibrating through the soil, and they immediately begin moving toward the heat source with terrifying precision. You might think of the danger as being similar to a mild mosquito bite or a slight case of poison ivy. You get a little itchy bump on your toe, you scratch it and you forget about it. But that mild itch is actually the feeling of the creature chemically melting a hole straight through your skin. Once it breaches your exterior armor, the true horror begins. It uses your own circulatory system as a private highway. The creatures travel through your bloodstream, rushing up into your lungs. Once there, they ambush your respiratory system. You cough them up into your throat, and without even realizing it, you swallow them down into your digestive tract. Here, they attack the walls of your intestines, clamping down with their glass-like teeth and drinking your blood. They just wait in the dark, stealing your nutrients drop by drop, leaving ancient populations lethargic, weak, and unable to defend their cities. The most bizarre and unexpected behavior of this creature is that it actively secretes a chemical that acts as an immunosuppressant, essentially turning off your body's natural defense alarms. It heavily drugs your immune system so that your body never even knows it is being eaten from the inside out. The next invader is much, much longer and prefers to steal your meals before you even have a chance to digest them. 2. Tapeworm. Let's talk about the massive, writhing monsters that ancient civilizations accidentally served at their dinner tables. Across the freezing plains of ancient Europe and the high altitudes of the Andes Mountains, early humans relied heavily on hunting wild game and domesticating early livestock. Whenever they cooked their pork or beef over low, smoky fires that didn't quite reach boiling temperatures, they were unknowingly ingesting dormant, biological time bombs. Scientists examining the frozen mummies of the Inca and the heavily bandaged remains of Egyptian nobility have consistently found the fossilized eggs of these massive creatures. They thrived because ancient food preparation lacked modern sanitation, allowing these monsters to conquer the human digestive tract and turn ancient kings into walking buffets. In terms of size, imagine swallowing a standard yellow tape measure that you use for home renovations. These creatures can grow to an astonishing 30 feet long inside a human being. They are flat, chalky white, and made entirely of thousands of rectangular segments linked together like an endless, fleshy cargo train. The head, called a scolex, is no larger than a pinhead but is crowned with a terrifying ring of sharp hooks and 4 muscular suction cups. Surprisingly, the power is its infinite biological regeneration. If you try to pull it out and the body breaks, or if medication only kills the lower half, the creature simply regrows its entire 30-foot length from the tiny head that remains anchored in your tissue. As long as the head survives, the monster is immortal. The danger often masquerades as a mild stomach ache or the feeling of being slightly hungry after a big meal. It feels like you just have a fast metabolism. But in reality, this massive creature is actively starving your organs. It does not even have its own digestive system. It simply absorbs the food you eat directly through its skin. Once inside, it uses those hooks to attack the soft lining of your intestines. It anchors itself deep into the flesh and waits for your meals to pass by. It does not chase its prey. It simply sits in the current of your digestive tract and steals every essential vitamin and carbohydrate you consume. Ancient people would eat massive feasts and still slowly waste away to bone, their bodies enduring extreme malnutrition while housing a giant, thriving beast in their core. The bizarre reality of this creature is that every single one of those rectangular segments making up its body is an independent reproductive factory. Those segments can detach, crawl out of the human body on their own, and survive in the environment to spread thousands of eggs to the next unsuspecting victim. The next one lives in the fresh water and targets the very rivers of your own body. 3. Blood fluke. Let's talk about the microscopic aquatic assassins that haunted the grandest rivers of the ancient world. For thousands of years, the mighty Nile River was the absolute lifeblood of the Egyptian Empire, providing water for drinking, bathing, and farming. But those exact same slow-moving waters were heavily infested with a stealthy parasite that devastated ancient society. When scientists first started putting Egyptian mummies into CT scanners, they discovered that an astonishing number of young, healthy-looking pharaohs and high priests had severely calcified, ruined livers and bladders. This widespread devastation was caused by the blood fluke, a parasite that completely bypassed the ancient world's rudimentary medicine by attacking from the water itself. If you could isolate one, its size and shape are nearly identical to a single grain of brown rice. They are soft, tubular, and slightly translucent with a grayish-pink hue. Under a microscope, you would see that they possess a muscular, oral sucker on their face that looks remarkably like a thick rubber plunger. The real power is its chemical disguise. Your immune system is designed to destroy any foreign object that enters the bloodstream, but this creature covers itself in a cloak of your own blood proteins. It literally wears your biological identity like a stolen uniform, becoming completely invisible to your body's defense mechanisms. At first, the danger just feels like a mild case of swimmer's itch. You take a bath in the river, you feel a tiny prickle on your leg, and you assume it was just a floating piece of grass. However, that prickle was the exact moment the creature dissolved your skin and dove into your bloodstream. Once inside, it begins a terrifying migration. These creatures chase the flow of your blood, riding the currents of your veins until they reach the rich, nutrient-dense vessels of your liver or bladder. They ambush the soft tissue, using their suckers to lock themselves against the walls of your blood vessels. They wait in the dark, feeding off your red blood cells. The real damage to the human body isn't from the bite, it's from the thousands of microscopic, barbed eggs they lay, which act like tiny pieces of shrapnel ripping through human organs every time the heart beats. The most bizarre and unexpected behavior is that these creatures mate for life and literally merge their bodies together. The male has a groove running down his back, and the female slides into it, allowing them to live as a single, fused organism inside your veins for up to 30 years. The next one flies through the air and is known as the greatest empire killer in human history. Malaria. Let's talk about the invisible airborne plague that brought the Roman Empire to its knees. Vast ancient cities built near beautiful, sprawling marshlands were completely unaware that the stagnant water surrounding their homes was a breeding ground for mass destruction. Ancient Greek and Roman physicians constantly wrote about a mysterious, bad air radiating from the swamps that caused their citizens to shake violently and burn with fever. Modern genetic testing on the bones of ancient Roman children has proven that this bad air was actually a devastating parasite delivered directly into their blood. It wiped out ancient armies faster than any sword ever could, turning bustling military camps into silent graveyards. In terms of size, this parasite is so unimaginably small that you could fit hundreds of them onto a single speck of dust. You cannot see it with the naked eye. It looks like a tiny, glowing green crescent moon when stained under a powerful microscope, completely devoid of any recognizable animal features like legs or mouths. Surprisingly, the power is its extreme shape-shifting ability. To survive both inside a cold-blooded flying insect and a warm-blooded human, This parasite completely mutates its physical form and its DNA at 5 different stages of its life cycle, acting like 5 completely different organisms just to confuse your defenses. The danger initially mimics a bad winter flu. You feel a little tired, your joints ache, and you get a sudden chill. You might just think you need to lie down by the fire. But while you rest, this microscopic invader is actively detonating your circulatory system. It does not just float in your blood, it violently attacks your red blood cells. It forcefully drills inside the cell, hides from your immune system, and rapidly clones itself. It waits until the cell is stretched to its absolute physical limit, and then millions of them explode out simultaneously, destroying the cell and swarming into the bloodstream to ambush the next healthy cells. Humans endure terrifying cycles of freezing chills and boiling fevers every time these biological bombs detonate inside them. The most bizarre fact about this parasite is that it chemically rewires the human body's scent glands. Once infected, you begin to emit a specific, invisible odor that actively attracts more mosquitoes to your skin, turning you into a biological beacon to ensure the parasite can escape and infect the rest of your village. We will pause our journey through ancient medical horrors for a moment. I have a secret question about today's topic that I will reveal at the end of the video. Only those of you who stick around for the entire journey will have the clues needed to answer it. The first person to leave the correct answer in the comments will be heavily featured in our next upload. 5. Chagas disease. Let's talk about the silent, nighttime assassin that haunted the ancient civilizations of the Americas. Deep in the arid deserts of ancient Peru and the thick jungles of the Amazon, early societies built their homes out of mud, clay, and thatched palm leaves. These natural building materials provided perfect hiding spots for a specialized insect carrying a devastating parasite. When scientists examined the incredibly well-preserved chinchorro mummies, some of the oldest artificially preserved human remains on Earth, they found massive, swollen hearts ruined by this exact parasite. It wiped out ancient people not with a sudden fever, but with a slow, invisible decay of their most vital organs. Imagine looking at a tiny comma printed in a paperback book that is the exact size and shape of this microscopic killer when it swims through your blood. It has a single, whip-like tail that it uses to violently propel itself forward, and under a lens, it looks like a frantic, swimming letter C. The real power is its silent endurance. While other diseases hit hard and fast, this parasite can live quietly inside the human body for up to 30 years without triggering a single alarm. It patiently hides inside the muscle tissue of your heart, slowly multiplying decade after decade while the host lives a completely normal life. The immediate danger feels exactly like an allergic reaction to a minor bug bite. You wake up with a swollen eyelid or a red smudge on your cheek that fades away in a few days. You think absolutely nothing of it. But beneath that mild swelling, the parasite has successfully infiltrated your fortress. It does not stay in the blood. It aggressively burrows directly into the dense muscle fibers of the human heart and digestive tract. It attacks the very cells responsible for making your heart beat. It waits in the shadows of your tissue, forming massive, swelling nests. Ancient humans simply endured a slow, unexplainable weakening over the years, until their hearts became so stretched out and paper-thin that they simply gave up. The bizarre and unexpected behavior is how it enters the body. The insect carrying it, known as the kissing bug, only attacks at night, biting the thin skin around your lips or eyes while you sleep. But the bite doesn't infect you. The bug defecates right next to the wound, and when you unconsciously scratch the itchy bite in your sleep, you manually rub the parasite into your own bloodstream. The next one is a microscopic hijacker that physically reshapes the skin of its victims. 6. Leishmaniasis. Let's talk about the ancient sandfly's secret weapon that ravaged the early societies of the Middle East and South America. On the edges of expanding ancient deserts and deep within tropical rainforests, humans working the land were constantly swarmed by tiny, silent flying insects. For centuries, ancient pottery and carved stone faces depicted rulers and commoners alike with severe, unexplainable facial scarring and missing tissue. Modern DNA extraction from pre-Columbian mummies has proven these disfigurements were caused by a brutal, single-celled parasite. It physically marked ancient societies, leaving permanent biological scars on anyone who survived its initial strike. If you were to look for one, its size is comparable to a single speck of fine white sand on a vast beach. It is perfectly oval-shaped, possessing a tiny, rigid antenna at one end that it uses to navigate through the complex, liquid environment of the human body. Surprisingly, the power is its ability to hack the human immune system. When your white blood cells, the heavy infantry of your immune system, rush in to swallow and dissolve this invader, the parasite chemically turns off the cell's digestive acids. It allows itself to be eaten, turning the very cells sent to destroy it into its own protective armor. The danger starts off looking just like a stubborn pimple or an ingrown hair on your arm. It is slightly red, slightly raised, and mostly painless. You might try to pop it or cover it with clay, assuming it will heal. But that tiny bump is actually a rapidly expanding war zone beneath your skin. The parasite ambushes the macrophages in your skin, rapidly multiplying inside them until they burst. It aggressively consumes the surrounding tissue, literally eating away at the flesh and cartilage of the human body. Ancient people endured massive, expanding craters on their skin, particularly around the nose and mouth, as the parasite slowly marched across their faces, destroying the soft tissue block by block. The bizarre reality of this parasite is that it physically alters the feeding behavior of the sandfly that carries it. It blocks the fly's throat with a thick biological gel, forcing the starving fly to bite humans aggressively and repeatedly, regurgitating the parasite into the wound over and over again. The next one is an external hitchhiker that drove ancient people to the brink of insanity. 7. Lice. Let's talk about the eternal, crawling companions of human hair that have followed us since the dawn of our species. In the crowded, bustling streets of ancient Rome, inside the sealed tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, and across the frozen tundra of early Viking settlements, these tiny insects were an inescapable fact of life. Ancient people were so plagued by these creatures that archaeologists routinely find incredibly intricate, dual-sided combs carved from wood and bone buried right alongside their most precious gold. Even the perfectly freeze-dried hair of mummies from the high Andes is frequently found completely encrusted with the hardened, glued-on eggs of this relentless pest. To visualize its size, hold a single sesame seed in the palm of your hand. That is exactly how big an adult gets. They are flat, wingless insects with a grayish-white, slightly translucent armor, making them incredibly difficult to spot as they scurry through the dense forest of human hair. The real power is its mechanical gripping strength. They possess 6 short, incredibly powerful legs, each terminating in a specialized, hook-like claw that is mathematically curved to perfectly wrap around the exact circumference of a single human hair. No amount of ancient scrubbing or rushing water could wash them away. At first, the danger just feels like a minor case of dry scalp. You feel a tiny tickle behind your ears, you scratch your head, and you blame it on the dust of the road. But that tickle is actually hundreds of insects moving rapidly across your scalp, preparing to feed. They attack the human scalp by injecting a tiny amount of highly irritating saliva directly into the skin to prevent the blood from clotting. Then, they violently puncture the flesh and drink the fresh blood. They wait in the warm darkness near the roots of the hair, hiding from the light. Ancient people endured an agonizing, never-ending itch that ruined their sleep, caused severe skin infections from constant scratching, and drove them to completely shave their heads and wear wigs just to find relief. The bizarre and unexpected behavior is that human evolution actually forced this parasite to split into completely different species. Because humans lost their thick body fur millions of years ago, creating a massive desert of bare skin between the head and the lower body, the insects were physically separated and evolved into completely distinct creatures tailored specifically for different zones of the body. The final one looks like a tiny farm tool and anchors itself deep into the human core. 8. Whipworm. Let's talk about the ancient hitchhiker found deeply buried inside fossilized latrines around the world. As early human societies transitioned from wandering hunter-gatherers to settled farmers, they began living much closer together, creating centralized waste areas. This change in human behavior was an absolute goldmine for a highly resilient parasite that traveled through contaminated soil and water. When scientists drill into the frozen, mummified remains of ancient European bog bodies or analyze the stomach contents of Incan children frozen in the mountains, they almost always find evidence of this exact creature. It quietly colonized the guts of our ancestors, completely unbothered by the rise and fall of surrounding empires. If you could hold it up to the light, it looks exactly like a heavy sewing needle attached to a long, incredibly thin piece of white thread. It reaches about 2 inches in length, with the thicker, handle portion housing its reproductive organs, while the long, microscopic thread acts as a brutal biological anchor. Surprisingly, the power is its impenetrable egg shell. The eggs of this parasite are built like microscopic military bunkers, capable of surviving extreme freezing temperatures, intense UV radiation, and severe droughts. They can sit completely dormant in the dirt for up to 5 years, simply waiting for a human hand to touch the soil. The danger initially feels like nothing more than a mild case of food poisoning or a passing cramp. You eat a meal, your stomach rumbles, and you move on with your day. But deep inside your lower intestine, an army is silently securing its stronghold. Once swallowed, the eggs hatch and the creatures aggressively chase the flow of digested food down into your colon. Using that thin, needle-like front end, they violently thread themselves directly into the solid tissue of your intestinal walls, stitching themselves into your flesh like a seamstress sewing a button. They wait there, permanently anchored, drinking your blood and causing severe inflammation. Ancient humans endured chronic digestive pain and anemia, carrying hundreds of these threaded creatures inside them for years. The bizarre fact that completely turns everything upside down is that modern medical science is now intentionally infecting patients with these exact ancient parasites. Because they heavily suppress the human immune system to survive, scientists use them today as a bizarre, living medication to treat severe autoimmune diseases, using an ancient enemy to heal the modern body. We have reached the end of our journey exploring the ancient parasites found in mummies. Here is the secret question. Which parasite completely mutates its physical form at 5 different stages to survive inside both insects and humans? Leave your answers in the comments section. Thank you for exploring with me. Stay curious and watch your step.